Okay, let's jump right in. We're going to completely flip the script on how we think about anxiety and overthinking. You know the feeling, right? Spinning out because a text message is taking way too long, or your brain is just constantly scanning for problems that literally haven't even happened yet. Look, we've all been there. But in today's explainer, we're diving into the actual hard science of why our brains do this. And even better, we're going to look at how we can actually break that loop for good.
So I want you to ask yourself a totally honest question. How much time, how much energy have you spent just trying to make your anxiety go away? If you're like most of us, the answer is, well, a lot. But here's the crazy paradox we're unpacking today. All anxiety is rooted in the future, right? It's all about uncertain circumstances. And because of that, fighting to just eliminate it entirely, it's basically a massive trap.
To escape this trap, we have to completely reframe how we look at anxiety. It is not a disease. It's definitely not some malfunction in your biological hardware. What it actually is this overzealous biological system acting as your protector of risk. See, your emotions have a job to do, and anxiety's job is to bring you a quote-unquote gift, the gift of keeping you safe from future uncertainties. Now, it might not be a gift we actually want, but it has a very, very specific purpose.
Section 1. The purpose of anxiety. Let's see how this builds our understanding of why our brains act this way in the first place. To really picture this cost-benefit analysis, just imagine a little bunny in a forest. If this bunny listens to its anxiety all the time, like reacting to every single snap of a twig or rustle of leaves, it absolutely keeps itself safe from predators. But what's the cost here? It's totally miserable. It's weak, hiding in its burrow, completely unable to eat or, actually enjoy the forest. On the flip side, if the bunny just completely ignores its anxiety, well, it feels incredibly free, right up until it makes itself way too vulnerable to a predator. So the goal here isn't to kill the bunny's survival instinct, it's about learning when to actually listen to it.
Section 2, your brain on overthinking. So what is actually happening under the hood, neurochemically speaking, when we start spiraling?
Okay, so it all starts with the amygdala, which is basically your brain's built-in alarm system. The thing is, the amygdala doesn't distinguish between a physical danger, like a literal tiger chasing you, and a relational risk, like, say, a really quiet evening with your partner. When it perceives a threat, bam, it triggers this massive neurochemical cascade. Your body gets totally flooded with cortisol and norepinephrine. And right here is where the overthinking gets locked in. Get this, cortisol actually suppresses your prefrontal cortex, that's the logical, rational part of your brain, by up to 40%. No way, right? Meanwhile, the norepinephrine sharpens your sensory attention, making you specifically look for danger patterns. So your rational appraisal goes completely offline. Your brain essentially turns into a highly sensitized threat detection machine that will literally construct its own evidence of danger out of totally neutral everyday data.
Now, when that neurochemical flood hits, our minds generally default to one of two pretty unhelpful extremes. First up, we've got overwhelm. This is when we're just entirely flooded by the anxiety. We start treating every single catastrophic what-if thought as the absolute undeniable truth. Then, on the other end, we have the avoidant response. This is essentially us plugging our ears, desperately seeking out any distraction, and just trying to run as fast as we can from the discomfort. But here's the catch. Neither of these responses actually processes the emotion.
Section 3. The reassurance trap. Let's look at how our attempts to soothe ourselves actually trigger the next downward spiral.
It's totally natural to seek reassurance to calm our anxiety down. But you have to remember, reassurance is just a tool. Honestly, it's kind of like a toilet plunger. Think about it. If you have a clog and use a plunger, you know within maybe 5 minutes if it actually worked. If your doctor confirms your sore throat is just a cold and you feel better right away, awesome, the plunger worked. But if you immediately start thinking, wait, what if the doctor missed something? And you start wildly Googling your symptoms on WebMD at 2 in the morning, yeah, the plunger's not working. You've officially entered the reassurance trap. See, anxiety holds an infinite deck of what-if cards. And if you keep chasing total certainty, you're going to be plunging forever.
Now, it's important to note that this trap doesn't catch everyone equally. Roughly 19 to 20% of the adult population has an anxious attachment style. To put that into perspective, for these individuals, their baseline assumption is often that human connection is just inherently fragile. So under any kind of perceived threat, their attachment system goes into hyperactivation. This makes them incredibly susceptible to this exact reassurance-seeking loop we just talked about. And look, they aren't trying to be difficult. Their subcortical threat response system is simply doing exactly what it was trained to do based on their really early attachment history.
Section 4. Relational self-fulfilling prophecies.
This brilliantly illustrates how this whole internal loop escapes our minds and absolutely wreaks havoc on our interpersonal relationships.
Let's quickly walk through this super destructive 4-step self-fulfilling prophecy. Step 1. Your brain detects some ambiguity. Maybe your partner is just a little quiet tonight. Step 2. Your cortisol spikes. Your prefrontal cortex dims down and you start surveilling. Asking, "Are you mad at me?" over and over. Step 3. Your partner begins to feel monitored. They get exhausted by the tension, so they pull back and withdraw just to get a little breathing room. And then Step 4. Your hyper-vigilant brain sees that withdrawal and goes, "Aha, I knew it. They are pulling away." It's crazy, but your overthinking literally manufactured the exact rejection you were terrified of in the first place. And the real-world cost of this loop? It's staggering. Research actually links this chronic ruminative threat surveillance to a massive 73% increase in the frequency of interpersonal conflicts. 73%! It literally dismantles trust and emotional safety before your conscious, logical reasoning ever even has a chance to step in and help.
Actually, let's just pause right here for a second. Because if there is only one thing you remember from this entire explainer, I really want it to be this incredibly powerful truth right here from the Anxiety Workbook. Quote, "You can't think your way out of anxiety. You have to behave your way out." Unquote. You simply cannot out-logic a suppressed prefrontal cortex. You just can't. You absolutely have to take action.
Section 5. Breaking the Anxiety Loop. All right, let's dive into the solution and look at some very actionable tools we can use to escape this paradox.
We need a brand new toolkit. First off, we've got to understand the core problem here, which is called cognitive fusion. That's the super dangerous habit of aligning perfectly with our anxious thoughts and just believing them as absolute cold hard facts. Instead, what we really want to practice is diffusion. This is a concept pulled right from acceptance and commitment therapy. It's all about gaining some much-needed space from our thoughts without actively fighting them. And finally, we have precise emotional labeling, which is exactly how we go about restoring that logical prefrontal function we lost earlier in the loop.
So, how do we actually practice diffusion in real life? Well, here is a surprisingly effective and, honestly, a slightly silly psychological hack called Change It Up. Whenever your brain hands you a terrifying what-if scenario, try saying that exact thought out loud, but do it in the voice of a cartoon character. Like, imagine Homer Simpson saying it. What if they're mad at me? Just try it and pay attention to what happens. It completely interrupts the automatic pattern in your brain. You suddenly realize it's just a thought. It's just a string of words generated by your brain, not some verified fact about reality. And just like that, you gain space.
But if we want to truly repair our relationships, neuroscience shows us we have to practice autonomic regulation. Essentially, before you ever bring up a concern with your partner, you absolutely have to restore your prefrontal cortex first. Step 1. Recognize your own unique physical signatures of anxiety early on. Is it a tight chest, shallow breathing? Notice it. Step 2. Precisely label what is happening. Literally say to yourself, "I am experiencing an amygdala activation." It sounds weird, but research actually shows this precise labeling measurably reduces the amygdala's firing. Step 3. You must wait. Just sit there and let that cortisol cascade pass through your system. And finally, Step 4, you only evaluate your relationship once you are fully back in a regulated, rational state of mind.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. What would your relationships, your career, and just your daily life look like if you completely stopped treating your anxiety as some enemy you have to destroy? What if, instead, you learn to simply step back, regulate your nervous system, and just let the storm pass? The tools are literally in your hands now. It's time to behave your way out.